Hello, everybody, and welcome to season 4 of the She Is Unleashed podcast. I am your host, Dr. Mirriam Knight, and I am so excited for this season because we are coming in hot and strong. And we are going to be talking about maximizing our impact, expanding our reach. This season is about to be absolutely phenomenal. So, you are in for a treat because this season we will be having a teaching episode, and we will also be having an interview episode. So you'll be getting two drops throughout the weeks as we go through season 4. So this season, if you are a woman that has ever felt stretched too thin while trying to expand, if you feel like your growth often comes at the cost of your well-being, and if you are wondering how to manage increasing responsibilities without feeling depleted, well, you and I are about to embark on this journey together because it is something that I'm having to relearn in this season as I expand my capacity for what God has assigned to me in this season. So we're about to expand our tents, expand our territory together, y'all, in this season 4 of the She's Unleashed podcast. My apologies. So today's episode is called the capacity code. If you are a client of mine, you will know that I use this word capacity on a frequent basis. It is so important for us to know and to continuously assess what our capacity is so that we can expand our reach and our impact without overextending ourselves. So let's be real. We are meant to expand. This is God's commission and his assignment to us to take territory, to grow, to expand, but not at the expense of our peace, our health, and our divine alignment. We have been called to more, but more that God has for us is not more stress, more exhaustion, more burnout. A lot of us feel that way. We feel like there's just so much on our plates that it feels overwhelming, but God is calling us in this season to step into more wisdom, more impact, where it's not costing us so much, but we are reaching more people and making more significant impact in the lives of people and intentionally building our internal capacity. If you will work with Destiny Connections LLC, our key model of transformation is the Heal Leadership Model. And the Heal Leadership Model says, first, we've got to heal. And we talked about that in the first, second, and third seasons of this podcast. We've talked a lot about healing. So in this season, we're talking about the E component, which is expand, and A, alignment, so that we can lead more effectively from a place of healing and wholeness. So go ahead, grab your journal, your Bible, your coffee and tea, because today we're going to break the cycle of overextending ourselves and redefine what it means to expand and activate the strategy, a God-given strategy to grow in a way that is sustainable and spirit-led. And we're going to go ahead and dive in, y'all. And I want to encourage you to tap into the interview segment of this podcast later on in this week, because we talked to a phenomenal woman called Latanya Monroe Naylor, and she is the go-to regarding all things nonprofit. If you are feeling God calling you to serve and to reach other people, and you feel like you're overextending yourself, and we'll break that down a little bit more today, this is someone that you want to tap into and connect with, so that in the mission and the assignment, we shift how we're approaching things in this season. We're not going to be those that serve from a place of depletion. We're going to be very intentional about serving from a place of overflow in this chapter of our lives. So why does expansion often feel like overextension? Listen, expansion as a divine assignment from the Lord is also a season that we need to steward very well. Isaiah 54 verse 2 to 3 says, enlarge the place of your tent, stretch your tent curtains wide, do not hold back, lengthen your cords, and strengthen your stakes. I want to pull up the Bible real quick, specifically so that we can look at this scripture in different versions. I love doing that. If you haven't got to know me in this way yet, this is something that I love doing, is looking at the Word of God and looking at it from different lenses. So in the New Living Translation, it says that It says, enlarge your house, build an addition, spread out your home, and spare no expense. So, God is saying to us literally, as you expand, the preparation phase, the internal preparations phase needs to be very intentional, where we're building our capacity in a very strategic way to be able to contain the things that God is calling us to step into in this next season. In verse 3, it says, for you will soon be bursting at the seams. Your descendants will occupy other nations and resettle the ruined cities. Now, in the message, it says, God says, clear lots of ground for your tents. Clear lots of ground for your tents, which means we need to be decluttering, making room for the next phase, right? Make your tents large, spread out, think big, use plenty of rope. Drive the tent pegs deep. You're going to need lots of elbow room for your growing family. You're going to take over whole nations. You're going to resettle abandoned cities. Y'all, don't be afraid. You're not going to be embarrassed. Don't hold back. You're not going to come short. This is what God's instruction is to us. In the Passion, it says, increase is coming. So enlarge your tent and add extensions to your dwelling. Hold nothing back. Make the tent ropes longer and the pegs stronger. You will increase and spread out in every direction. Your sons and daughters will conquer nations and revitalize desolate cities. We're doing this increase and this expansion for legacy. We are doing things that we'll be able to pass on to our children and their children. They'll be able to see this is how it's done in a healthy way, in a way that is in order, in a way that is sustainable, God's way. We're going to do it God's way. See, as God calls us to grow, there's a challenge that comes with that beckoning to growth and expansion. A lot of us as women, we expand without strengthening our foundation. If you look at this passage, God is saying to the children of Israel that we have to literally strengthen our foundation, strengthen our pegs, dig in deep, y'all. We can't be surface level in this next season. We have to dig in deep. We have to lengthen the rope and allow ourselves space for expansion. A lot of times we say yes to everything without discerning what is actually for us. And thirdly, we often chase after opportunities, but we neglect what the capacity is that we have in this season for these opportunities. So, why do we often find ourselves in a space where expansion feels like overextension, and you constantly hear the words, I feel overwhelmed. I feel overwhelmed. I feel overwhelmed. Y'all, I'm in a season where I want to get rid of that overwhelmed. I don't want to feel overwhelmed when I know that this is where God is calling me to. But for that to happen, I have to put in place certain things so that the expansion does not feel like overextension. So, what are 3 reasons why expansion feels like overextension? Number 1, we're expanding without having structure. We take on more without having systems to support our growth. When we don't have structure, we carry the weight alone. This means we've got to build teams. It means we have to build support systems. It means we have to also do the digital and the behind the scenes stuff. We've got to put our houses in order. In Luke 14, verse 28, it says, suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost? We've got to put our finances in order, our relationships in order. We've got to put some structure in our lives that allows us. We don't just go blindly into expansion. We have to actually sit down and say, who do I have to become? What do I have to put in place to be able to walk into this expansion and not feel overextended? Do I have the capacity to carry this thing that God is calling me to? And if not, what do I need to do to build that capacity? Do I have the financial resources, the emotional, the mental, the relational resources and structures in place that will allow me to move into this next season with wisdom, with strategy, and with ease? Secondly, why we feel like expansion is overextension is because we're expanding in the wrong areas. Very important. Not every door, not every open door, not every opportunity is a divine door. We have to use discernment to know what God is telling us to take on in this season. I shared in this episode that you will hear later on this week about how I put into Chat GPT this prompt about asking it to be completely honest with me about what are some of my shortcomings that it may see from our conversations together. And one of the things that came back to me is that I am taking on things in this season that that are no longer serve me, that I'm no longer being required to carry in this season, that I have to assess what my mantle and my assignment is for this season. And if it's no longer in alignment with where I am right now, where God has placed me right now, where He's calling me to right now, I need to be able to release and relinquish those things. And I can't say yes to everything and everyone. I need to be intentional and Jesus did this, y'all. I cannot add on to my plate things that God never assigned me. So I need to even assess what is on my plate that may have been on my plate in a different season, but maybe in this specific season, God is saying you need to let that go. You need to release that. In Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1, it says, there's a time for everything and a season for every activity under heaven. What are the things that we have on our plate that God is saying in this season? We need to shut those doors and close those and take those off our plates. Give them to somebody else. Delegate, delegate, delegate. Keyword in this season of expansion. Number 3, we're expanding without restoring. When we pour out, we need to build systems into our schedules and our routines that allow us to experience and have intentional restorative spaces. That if we pour out, we pour back in. If we are giving out, that we have others that are pouring into us. Expansion requires intentional rest. That I'm practically applying that this week. I'm saying no to some things. I'm taking some stuff off my plate. I am blocking out time in my schedule to rest and stop and pause. In Mark 6, verse 31, it says, Jesus says to his disciples, he says, come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest. Jesus modeled this. He encouraged it. He did it himself, where he was so intentional about stepping away from everything, spending time with the Father that was restorative for him, allowing the Father to pour back into him. That is why he was able to carry the things that he was called to carry in his assigned season. If you think about Moses, Joshua, all these people that led these great movements and these great transitions, the only way they could sustain what God was assigning to them was because they prioritized their time of pour in the presence of the Lord. They sat at his feet. They recognized what the one thing is that was absolutely necessary. So I want to ask you right now, if you can pause just for a second and ask yourself, are you growing in alignment, or are you just adding more to your plate? What is the one thing that you've taken on that may not be God's assignment for you this season, or maybe something that you've had for a long time that God is saying, in this specific season, this thing needs to be taken off your plate. It is no longer your assignment. Listen, expansion is only sustainable when it is intentional. We can't just default and stumble into expansion. We have to move strategically and intentionally. So let's talk about how we can shift into aligned expansion. If we find that we feel like we're all over the place, we're scattered all along the place, we need to be more intentional about how we can realign our lives. So let's talk about the capacity code, how we can expand without breaking. I'm going to break this down real quick because expanding without overextending requires strategy. So here are some 3 principles for sustainable growth. Number 1, clarify what your core assignment is. I'm going to say that again. Clarify what your core assignment is. What is the Lord? And the only way you're going to find this out is if you sit at his feet and you ask him, Father, here's everything. Here's all the things. Lord, which of these is my assignment in this season? What are you telling me to say yes to? What are you telling me to say no to? What are you telling me to get off my plate in this season? Not everything is yours to carry. Your core assignments are the things God has clearly called you to steward that nobody else can do. When I put into ChatGPT, what is the one thing that y'all, ChatGPT and I are good friends, all right? So I said, what is the one thing that I and I alone can do in my organization, my company, that I need to be intentional about making room for, that nobody else can do? And it was so interesting that the thing that came out was apostolic writing and creating and training and development and building capacity, building teams, pouring into others, developing other leaders. That is my assignment in this season. And because of that, that has to be the one thing that I do in this season, and I relinquish everything else that is requiring me to do things myself. I need to equip and train and write and create and write down things so that others can run with the vision. This is my assignment. So in Proverbs 16, verse 9, it says, "In their hearts, humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps." We need to be intentional about asking the Lord, what are the steps that you are asking me to take in this season? So I want to encourage you. An action step on this is make a list of your top 3 to 5 core assignments. If it's not on that list, reconsider it. If there's any task that is on your list that is not in that top 3 core assignments, don't even make room for it. Delegate it, give it away, say no. We need to be sure that what God has assigned to us, what our core assignment is what we give most of our time to. Number 2, expand with systems, not just hustle. We need to be clear about how we're expanding. More does not mean do everything yourself. We have to create structures that allow us to grow without burning out. In Exodus 18, verse 21, Moses appointed leaders to help him carry the burden of leadership. Listen, we have to identify areas in our lives and in our ministry and our leadership where we need better support. And we need to delegate, we need to automate, and we need to restructure so that we are not overloading ourselves, overextending ourselves, and burning ourselves out. Moses' father-in-law said to him, "The way you're going right now, you're about to burn out and crash." Like, he literally spoke about burnout long before we started talking about burnout, because he was a man leading millions of people, and he spent all day and night listening to people's complaints and their issues and solving cases. He was being overextended and burned out, y'all. So he had to appoint leaders and train and equip them so that they could do the things, right? And that he would be only left with the things that only he could do and nobody else. We've also got to be able to relinquish some of that control that we feel like we need to have our hands in everything. And number 3, we've got to protect our energy like it's a sacred resource. Not every opportunity deserves a rest. Is it in alignment with your vision and your assignment and your mission? Are you hearing a yes from the Lord regarding this assignment? Even though it's a great contract, it may not be your contract. We need to be able to discern what is a God yes, not just an us yes, but a God yes. And we must reserve our energy. What we say yes to, what we say no to allows us to say yes, right? So if we say yes to all the wrong things, we don't have any energy left to say yes to the right things. We must reserve our energy for what actually matters, what is actually assigned to us. In Matthew 11, verse 28 to 30, it says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Listen, let's do this. You and I together, we're going to create a stop doing list. What are the things that we need to stop doing? The things that are draining us, the things that we have been doing that God never told us to do. We have to make a decision to commit to releasing those things and to stop doing that. Remember, the key to expansion is not doing more, it's doing the right things in the right way. So let's talk about the last component of this. How do we lead with greater capacity and wisdom? Again, sis, expansion is not about grinding harder. I'm learning that myself, and I'm having to apply this at a greater level in this season. I've learned this lesson before, but it's different this time because the expansion is different. The territory is different. What is being required of me in this season is different. So it requires even more expansion to block out time for the pour in, y'all. For the pour in, it's so important for the stillness, for the quietness, to be able to discern only what is a God yes and not just an any yes. We've got to lead with wisdom and capacity. In James chapter 1 verse 5, it says, "If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you." God checked me on this a couple of months ago, y'all, and he said, in your asking of that wisdom, you also have to be able to hear what I'm saying and obey. So here's 3 ways we can lead with capacity and wisdom. 1, be discerning about growth opportunities. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Ask God if the opportunity aligns with your season. Number 2, surround yourself with expansion-minded people. If you're the most overwhelmed person in the room, then you need to find a new room, right? If you're the most educated, the most renowned, you need to find another room that you need to be in. Get around women who model balance, wisdom, and strategic expansion. I'm so grateful for the coaching groups that I'm in, for the ministry groups I am, the teams that I'm in, because I'm held to be accountable by those people. Their way of moving and navigating life encourages me and challenges me to prioritize my own well-being as well. Proverbs 27 verse 17 says, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. We have to be so intentional about surrounding ourselves with people that expand, not just expand anyway, but expand in a healthy way. And number three, keep expanding your capacity through rest and renewal. Y'all, we don't understand that our pullback and our resting is so instrumental in how we propel forward. I'm going to say that again. Our pullback and our resting is so instrumental in how we propel forward. If we want to make greater impact, we have to pull back more, because we have to recognize it's not by our own strength and our own wisdom and our own capacity, but it is by His capacity that we're able to make a greater impact in the lives of people, right? So we don't sustain expansion by working harder. We sustain it by maintaining ourselves at the feet of the cross. That has to be our priority, to be at His feet, to sit at His feet and allow Him to fill us up. We have to commit to rest as a non-negotiable. I'm speaking and preaching to myself as well. Listen, God is increasing your territory in this season, but He's also calling you to steward that territory well. Expand with wisdom, grow with grace, and protect your peace. Our mind is so important. Our bodies these are the only minds and bodies that He's given us to run our race. We need to take care of these gardens so well. So, sis, today we talked about a lot. We're no longer overextending ourselves. We're expanding in alignment, wisdom, and grace. This is your She's Unleashed challenge for this week. One, identify what is truly part of your divine assignment. What is God's yes in your life? Number two, create your stop doing list. Both you and I are going to do this. What are we stopping doing in this season? What are we saying no to? And number three, take one action to structure your growth for sustainability. Think about what systems, what relationships, what support you need to put in place so that you can grow and expand without overextending yourself. Y'all, this is so good. This is so good, and we've just begun. If you need additional support in your journey, I want to encourage you to join the She's Unleashed Collective at www.she'sunleashed.org. Sign up and be a part of this growing group of women that are committed to serving each other and serving the Lord together. Go ahead and click in the footnotes. There are a whole bunch of wonderful resources there, including our Kingdom Identity Declarations list. We need to continue to renew our minds to see and look at life through the lens of what He says about us. And y'all, if this episode has blessed your life, has encouraged you in any way, if you think of anybody that might benefit from listening to this episode, please go ahead and share this with them and invite them to like and share with somebody else. Sis, this is your season to expand in a way that fuels you and not drains you. I will see you in the next episode. God bless you, and we'll talk soon.